Welcome back to another episode of 40 Facts about the 40K universe. I am your host, Gersh1, and you are watching One Mind Syndicate. Today, we continue to talk about the Imperium of Man as we get into 40 facts about the Navigators. A Navigator is a very particular form of Imperial-sanctioned human mutant who possesses the Navigator Gene. This gives a Navigator the unique ability to navigate a faster-than-light starship accurately through the warp space. This ability makes navigators absolutely essential to the Imperium's continual survival and to the interstellar transportation, communication, and commerce. All navigators have a third eye, commonly called the warp eye, on their foreheads, which allows them to perceive the psychic light, known as the Astronomicon, enabling them to fully use their powers in guiding human starships through the currents of the warp. Their ability to sense the tides of the warp is considered psychic, although the navigators never possess any psychic abilities beyond the powers their warp eye affords them. Navigators possess natural lifespans of as much as 400 years. As they increase in age, their ability increases in power, and their physical appearance changes. The white and iris of the eyes gradually disappear, leaving only a hardened black orb. For centuries, navigators have led mankind between the stars. Theirs is the unique power to gaze into the warp and guide humanity's vessels across the vastness of the galaxy. This power affords them a special place within the Imperium of Man, and over time, it has won them great prestige and wealth. All navigators belong to a large group of noble families based on Terra, in the great district of the world city known as the Navigators' Quarter. These dynasties are known collectively as the great families of the Navis Nobilite. The contemporary navigator houses of the Navis Nobilite have a scope of power and influence that is breathtaking to behold, reaching for the farthest worlds of the human-settled galaxy, to the vaulted chambers of the High Lords of Terra themselves. It is into this position of power and privilege that the Navigator is born, gifted with unique and strange powers by the blood of their ancestors. Although they may be one among many within their brood, a Navigator knows that they stand head and shoulder above the common citizens of the Emperor's domain because of their unique and priceless ability. They also know that with training, dedication, and influence, they may raise within the ranks of their house and perhaps even take the mantle of Novator, Lord and Master of the family, and all of its excessive economic, military, and political power. The origins of the Navigators have long been lost to antiquity, like so much of the Imperium's history, forgotten and buried beneath the weight of millennia of strife and decay. Clannish and insular, they have lived amongst humans since the time of the Dark Age of technology, and during the nightmarish century of the Age of Strife. It is not known how this unique subspecies of human first came into existence, though they may have been the result of long forbidden genetic tampering with the human genome in a long ago age. Some Imperial scholars suspect the hand of the Emperor, if not in the Navigator's original creation, then perhaps in their recreation and certain increase in numbers during the age of the Imperium. During the Unification Wars, the Emperor in person granted a charter to those Navigator groups who swore him fealty, granting them high legal protection in exchange for their service as steermen for the many starships of the new Imperium. Those extreme few amongst the Imperial savants who have access to the remaining archives of records dating back to the Unification War of the late 30th millennium believe that, not unlike the Thunder Warriors, the Navigators were only tolerated by the Emperor as a stopgate measure until his Imperial Webway project was completed, and were to be eliminated afterwards as undesirable and potentially dangerous mutants. Unfortunately, with the destruction of the Imperial Webway and the interment of the Emperor upon the Golden Throne after the Battle of Terra at the end of the Horus Heresy, the once temporary solution to the Imperial problems of interstellar travel and communication, offered by the Navigators and the psychic beacons known as the Astronomicon, became permanent. In the late 40th millennium, the Navigator houses are still considered to be under the protection of the Emperor himself in exchange for their unique brand of service to humanity. Whatever the cause of its appearance, the Navigator Gene, as it is known, has endured across thousands of Terran years. This mutation has not endured through accident, but through careful cultivation. A Navigator is the result of focused selective breeding, rigorous genetic screening by their house at every stage of their development. The unique psychic powers of the Navigators are passed down through each generation. The Navigator Gene, which is recessive, can only be preserved by intermarriage. It is lost when a Navigator breeds with an original human who does not possess the gene. This factor has led to the development of the closely related Navigator families. Even when they attain the rank of full Navigator and leave the protection of their house to take up the task to which their nature calls them, their family ties remain strong and bind them tight, reminding them where their duty lies. Navigators are genetically empowered to see into the warp directly, without risking instant insanity or death, and hence guide a vessel as it attempts to plot a course in the otherworldly dimension. This is possible because psychers of all kinds, navigators included, use the immaterium to empower their gifts and to this role of guiding their fellows through the currents of the warp. The navigator's ability only enables them to chart relatively short journeys through the warp with a degree of certainty. But combined with the Emperor's creation of the great beacon known as the Astronomicon, the Navigator's range was greatly expanded, and without them the Great Crusade and the expanding of the Imperium of Man would not have been possible. While the Navigators served the single purpose of guiding starships through the warp, they are also capable of far greater control over the strange power they wield, making subtle changes to its current and tides. Little is known about how the Navigator's warp relationship works, or exactly how it is that many Navigators are able not only to look into the warp, but also enact their will on it to some extent. One of the fundamental tensions that exists between the novice nobilite and the rest of the Imperium is that the fact that the Navigators are obviously mutants, in an imperial culture that does not often wish the mutant to live and are brutally oppressed. Many dark legends and fables of excess, witchery, and murderous power have grown up about them, and not all without cause. As a result, navigators are often shunned and feared, and the popular dread at meeting the gaze of their third-fold eyes means that many imperial citizens prefer to have dealings with them only when they absolutely must. The maintenance of the invaluable but recessive Navigator gene through selective inbreeding between a very small extent population has also meant that over thousands of standard years, most Navigator families have acquired malformations, strange afflictions, or mental abnormalities. In some Navigator families, the genetic corruption of the line has become so severe that only a few members of the clan can move amongst the rest of the Imperium. The remainder remain confined to the great family's estates, or in sealed tabernacles above void ships, their hideous deformalities hidden from sight. These differences have often led to conflict in the past, and localized factions of ecclesiarchy have on numerous occasions burned navigators' holdings and executed navigators as heretics. Such incidences are often brought violently to heel by the ecclesiarchy itself before the wrath of the High Lords of Terra visit upon the culprits and any above them in rank that allow such actions to come to pass. After all, no one can afford to offend those who hold the Imperium's only key to voyaging between the stars. The Inquisition is one of the few bodies that can truly move with impunity where the navigators are concerned, and its eye is ever kept on the navigator clans. Yet even the Inquisition must hold back and be certain in their task. In extreme cases, the Ordo have destroyed entire clans and carried their patriarchs and matriarchs off into the black ships for final sanction when necessary. Other than the existence of a third eye in the middle of their forehead, most navigators are virtually indistinguishable from normal humans. Others possess such extreme physical deviations that their appearance is utterly alien, although the deviations exhibited are limited to specific traits common among navigators. Navigators tend to be tall and spindly, sometimes with pale and almost translucent skin. Other common mutant traits include scaly skin, extremely large eyes, which may lack the iris, and ill-defined facial features. The hands and feet of a navigator can be ridiculously large and are often webbed. It is very common for navigators to be completely hairless, either from birth or soon after adolescence, when the third eye opens. Except in the most extreme cases, a navigator would never possess all of these mutant traits at the same time. Those born with such extreme mutations might be hidden away or even killed at birth by their house to prevent their bloodlines from being contaminated by a level of mutation that would surely draw the attention of the Ordo Hereticus, or even worse, the interests of their rival navigator houses. Common to the navigators is the warp or third eye. It almost always manifests as a literal mutation they bear upon their foreheads. Aside from giving the power to gaze into the warp, the third eye has other powers too, although these are employed far more rarely and are subject of some mystique. These powers develop with navigators' experience of the warp, so that they are most often developed by the potent navigators known as the heirs apparent. It is said that the third eye of the navigators have prophetic powers, and that it can literally see into the future. Navigators are very reluctant to talk about their powers, and it may well be that only the Patronova, the political leader of the Novice Nobilite, understands the full potential of the navigator's psychic abilities. Navigators generally keep their third eye covered with a bandana or something similar, except when they are taking starships through the warp, causing many people to doubt that the third eye even exists. There are places in the galaxy that the navigators avoid at almost all costs. Navigators will shun the Eye of Terror and thousands of light years of space around it, rather than risk a minor deviation in course, which might take them close to or across its boundaries. Most navigators have personal experiences of close encounters with chaos near the Eye of Terror, and many more can recall the names of others who traveled too close to the Eye in a foolish attempt to cut standard days from their journey, only to vanish forever. And those were 40 facts about the Navigators. Now, the Navigators themselves are a mutant species that is often not talked about in just regular gameplay. You really have to get into the lore. But what I found surprising is that there is actually a lot of fluff for these guys. So this is going to be a 4-part series. So subscribe to the channel to learn more about the Navigators and to learn more about space travel and 40k lore in general. If you're already a subscriber, thank you for liking, commenting, and sharing. That really does help us out. By you liking, by you commenting, you are making us, or you're giving us the ability to create more content for you guys. So thank you for that. And stay tuned for the next one. This was Gersh1 with One Mind Syndicate, signing out.